My daughter is the tutor of my billionaire CEO ex-husband's new kids, and they keep wondering why she looks exactly like them. The blood drained from my face as I stood frozen in the doorway of the Cole mansion, watching my ex-husband Adrian stare at our daughter, the daughter he never knew existed, with a look of dawning horror in his eyes. "Stop," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. His hand trembled as he pointed at Mira. "Just stop for a second." Mira froze mid-sentence, confused. She'd been explaining a chemistry concept to his youngest son, Jaden. "Mr. Cole. Is something wrong?" Adrian's 3 children, Eli, Mia, and Jaden, turned to look at their father. The resemblance between all 4 of them was undeniable now. Those same piercing green eyes. The same way they tilted their heads when concentrating. The same slight dimple on the left cheek when they smiled. Adrian took a step closer to Mira, studying her face like he was seeing a ghost. "How old are you?" he asked. "I'm 19, sir." "Why?" I watched from the entrance hallway, my heart hammering so hard I thought it might break through my chest. This wasn't supposed to happen. Not like this. Not ever. "When is your birthday?" Adrian pressed, his voice getting harder, more demanding. "September 14th, Mira said, backing up slightly, clearly uncomfortable. "Mr. Cole, you're scaring me." Adrian did the math in his head. I could see it happening, could see 20 years of carefully constructed lies crumbling in real time. "Who's your mother?" he asked. "What's her full name?" "Lena Morel," Mira said. Then she saw me standing there. "Mom. What are you doing here? What's going on?" Adrian turned slowly, and our eyes met for the first time in 20 years. The recognition hit him like a physical blow. His face went white. His hands clenched into fists. "Lena," he breathed. And I knew, in that moment, that every secret I'd kept, every lie I'd told myself about protecting him and protecting her, was about to detonate and destroy everything. If you've ever kept a secret that felt like it would rip your world apart if it came out, hit that subscribe button right now, because this story is about to get even more intense, and you won't want to miss a single moment of what happens next. Let me take you back to where this nightmare actually began. 20 years ago. Back when I was young and stupid and so in love I couldn't see straight. I met Adrian Cole in a cramped college library during finals week. I was 21, buried under a mountain of Victorian literature textbooks, and he was this intense engineering student who kept pacing near my table, muttering equations under his breath. "Do you mind?" I'd finally snapped. "Some of us are trying to focus." He'd looked at me then, really looked at me, and smiled this crooked smile that made my stomach flip. "Sorry," he said. "I'm trying to solve this robotics problem and I think better when I move." "Solve it sitting down," I'd said, but I was smiling too. He sat across from me. We talked until the library closed. Then we talked in the parking lot until sunrise. 3 weeks later, we were inseparable. 6 months after that, we moved in together. Adrian was brilliant. Not just smart, but the kind of brilliant that made you believe he could actually change the world. He'd spend nights sketching out designs for prosthetic limbs that could feel sensation, for AI systems that could learn and adapt. His eyes would light up when he talked about making technology that could give people their lives back. I fell hard. God, I fell so hard. We got married 2 years later at the courthouse. No family, no big celebration. Just us, 2 strangers we pulled in as witnesses, and a justice of the peace who looked half asleep. Adrian had whispered his vows like they were prayers, his hands shaking as he slid the simple silver band onto my finger. "I'm going to build something amazing," he'd said that night, lying in our tiny apartment bed. "And I'm going to do it with you beside me." I'd believed him. I'd believed in us. Then my mother got diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. 3 months to live, maybe 6 if she was lucky. She'd raised me alone after my father left when I was 2. She'd worked 3 jobs to put me through school. She'd sacrificed everything for me. And she was dying. The same week I got that news, Adrian got the call that would change his life. A tech incubator in Singapore. Full funding, top-tier investors, everything he'd ever dreamed of. They wanted him immediately. They wanted him to move across the world and build his empire. Come with me, he'd begged, pacing our apartment just like he used to pace the library. Lena, this is it. This is everything we've worked for. My mother is dying, I said, my voice breaking. I can't leave her. Not now. She has hospice care. She has nurses. She has me, I shouted. She only has me, Adrian. I'm all she has in this world. And what about me, he yelled back. What about us? What about our future? After, I said desperately. After she's gone, I'll come. I promise. Just give me a few months. But Adrian heard something else in my words. He heard me choosing my dying mother over his dreams. Over him. Over us. You don't believe in me, he said quietly, and that hurt worse than the yelling. You never really believed I could do this. That's not true. If you did, you'd come. You'd find a way. But you won't, because deep down, you think I'm going to fail. Adrian, please. Come with me or don't, he said, already pulling out his suitcase. But I'm not putting my life on hold, Lena. I can't. This opportunity won't wait. Then go, I'd said, angry and hurt and terrified. Go chase your precious dreams. See if I care. He left the next morning. The divorce papers arrived 3 weeks later, clinical and efficient, reducing 2 years of marriage to a set of legal documents that needed my signature. I signed them. What choice did I have? 2 weeks after that, I was in my mother's bathroom, staring at a positive pregnancy test, and my entire world tilted sideways. Pregnant. I was pregnant with Adrian's child, and he was halfway across the world building his new life without me. I sat on that bathroom floor for 3 hours, just staring at that little plastic stick with its 2 pink lines. My mother was sleeping in the next room, the morphine keeping her pain at bay for a few hours. She had maybe 2 months left. Maybe less. And I was going to have a baby. I could have called Adrian. I had his new number in Singapore. I could have sent an email. I could have told him. But what would that accomplish? He'd either come back out of obligation, resenting me and the baby for derailing his dreams, or he'd stay there and send child support checks, treating our daughter like a financial burden. Either way, I'd be the woman who trapped him, who ruined his life. I couldn't do that to him. And I couldn't do that to our baby. So I made a choice. I decided to carry this secret alone. I told myself it was mercy, that I was protecting both of them. I told myself a lot of things to make the guilt bearable. My mother died 6 weeks later, holding my hand, never knowing about her grandchild growing inside me. I gave birth alone. Well, not completely alone. There was a nurse named Sarah who held my hand through the worst of it, who talked me through the pain, who cried with me when they placed my daughter on my chest. What's her name? Sarah asked. I looked down at this tiny, perfect creature with her father's green eyes and my dark hair, and I whispered, Mira. Her name is Mira. It means wonderful in Latin. Because despite everything, despite the loneliness and fear and grief, she was the most wonderful thing I'd ever created. I poured the small insurance payout from my mother's death into opening a bookstore in Lakeshore City. Pages and Memories, I called it. It was tiny, barely profitable, but it was ours. Mira grew up between those shelves, surrounded by stories of other lives, other loves, other endings. She was brilliant, just like her father. By the time she was 5, she was reading chapter books. By 7, she was devouring classic literature. She had Adrian's intensity, his focus, his way of getting completely absorbed in problems until she solved them. But she had my empathy too. My love for stories. My quiet strength. "Mom," she asked me when she was 7, curled up in the reading nook we'd built in the back of the store, "where's my dad?" I'd known this question was coming. I'd practiced my answer 1,000 times. "Your dad is someone very special," I said carefully. "Someone brilliant who had big dreams he needed to chase. Someone who would have loved you very much if things had been different." "Is he dead?" "No, baby. He's just far away." "Will I ever meet him?" "Maybe someday," I lied. "When you're older." She'd accepted that answer then. Kids do, when they trust you. But the question came back every few years, each time a little harder to deflect, a little more pointed. By the time Mira was 19, I'd almost convinced myself that we were safe. That Adrian Cole was just a name in my past, a chapter I'd closed and locked away. He'd built his empire. TechCore Dynamics was revolutionizing prosthetics and AI. I'd seen him on the news occasionally, always looking polished and successful and happy. He'd remarried. Had 3 kids. Built the exact life he'd always wanted. And I'd built mine, small and quiet and safe, with our daughter who had his eyes. Then Mira came home one evening, flushed with excitement, waving a piece of paper. "Mom, look. I got a tutoring job. The pay is incredible, like 3 times what I make at the campus bookstore. It's perfect for saving for college." I glanced at the paper, barely paying attention. "That's wonderful, honey. What family?" "The Coles. They live in that huge estate overlooking the lake. You know, the tech guy who owns TechCore Dynamics. Apparently his wife travels constantly for work, so he needs help with the kids' homework and enrichment activities. 3 kids, ages 8 to 12. The paper slipped from my fingers. "What did you say the name was?" I asked, my voice sounding far away. "Cole. Adrian Cole." "Mom, are you okay? You look like you're going to pass out." I gripped the counter, forcing myself to breathe. Cole was a common name. Lakeshore City had nearly 1 million people. The chances were slim. Impossible, really. Except I'd learned a long time ago that the universe had a cruel sense of timing. "I'm fine," I managed. "Just be professional. Do good work." That night, I didn't sleep. I paced our small apartment above the bookstore, watching the city lights shimmer through the window. Somewhere out there, in that massive estate overlooking the lake, was the man I'd loved and left. The man who had no idea he had a 19-year-old daughter. The man whose children our daughter was about to meet. Tell me in the comments what you would do in my situation. Would you warn your daughter? Would you come clean after 20 years? And make sure you subscribe because this story is about to get a whole lot more complicated. Mira went to her first day at the Cole mansion with the kind of nervous excitement she'd had on her first day of school. She wore her nicest jeans and a professional blouse. She'd practiced her introduction in the mirror. I watched her leave and felt like I was watching a bomb with a lit fuse walk out the door. She came home 6 hours later, glowing. "Mom, oh my God, those kids are amazing," she said, dropping her bag and collapsing onto our worn couch. "Eli is 10 and he's reading at high school level. We talked about Dostoevsky for like an hour. And Nia is 12 and she showed me her art portfolio. It's museum quality, seriously. And Jaden, he's only 8, but he understands physics concepts that most adults can't grasp." I kept my hands busy making tea, not trusting myself to look at her. "And Mr. Cole?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "I only saw him briefly. He was rushing out to some board meeting. But he seemed nice. Intense, you know. Like he takes everything seriously. The kids clearly worship him. She paused, and I could feel her studying me. Mom, there's something weird though. My hand shook, spilling hot water on the counter. What? The kids all have these really distinctive green eyes. Like, really striking. And their mannerisms. The way Eli tilts his head when he's thinking. The way Mia bites her lip when she's concentrating. Jaden does this thing where he runs his hand through his hair when he's frustrated. She laughed. It's crazy, but they reminded me of me. Isn't that weird? I turned to face her, forcing a smile I didn't feel. Lots of people have green eyes, honey. It's just coincidence. But it wasn't coincidence. It was genetics. It was blood. It was 20 years of secrets coming home to roost. Over the next 3 weeks, Mira fell in love with those kids. She'd come home every day with new stories. About how Jaden had figured out a math problem she'd been struggling to explain. About Nia's latest painting. About Eli's questions about philosophy and literature. They asked me today why I look like them, Mira mentioned casually one evening. I froze. What did you say? I laughed it off. Told them everyone says I have a common face. But seriously, Mom, it's uncanny. We have the same eyes. The same expressions. Even their dad noticed. Adrian noticed. The name slipped out before I could stop it. Myra's head snapped up. How did you know his first name? You must have mentioned it, I said quickly. No, I always call him Mr. Cole. The lie hung between us, fragile and obvious. But Mira was kind. She let it go, filing it away in that growing list of questions she had about her father, about her past, about all the things I'd never quite explained. I knew I was running out of time. Every day Mira spent with those children, the resemblance became more obvious. Every conversation she had with Adrian increased the risk that he'd remember. That he'd do the math. But I didn't know what to do. How do you confess a 20-year-old lie? How do you tell your daughter that you've been keeping her from her father, from her siblings, from half her identity? So I did nothing. I waited. I hoped. I prayed that somehow, impossibly, this would all just blow over. Then came the day that changed everything. Mira was at the Cole house, working with Jaden on a science project. They were building a model of the solar system, and apparently Jaden had very specific ideas about planetary rotation. Hand me the glue gun, Jaden said. Mira reached for it, but her sleeve caught on the edge of the table. The hot glue gun tipped, and burning glue splashed across her hand. Ah, she gasped, jerking back. Jaden's scream brought Adrian running from his home office. What happened? He demanded, already moving toward Mira. I'm fine, she said, but her hand was already blistering. It's just a little burn. That's not a little burn. Jaden, get the first aid kit. Now. Adrian grabbed Myra's wrist gently, examining the damage. His touch was clinical, professional, but there was something else there too. A familiarity that made Mira uncomfortable. We need to get you to urgent care, Adrian said. This could scar. Really, I'm fine. I'm not asking. His voice had that tone that his employees probably knew well. The one that said arguing was pointless. 20 minutes later, Mira was in Adrian's Mercedes, speeding toward the nearest emergency clinic. She sat in the passenger seat, cradling her burned hand, acutely aware of how small the space felt. How his cologne smelled like cedar and something else she couldn't identify. How his hands gripped the steering wheel with the same intensity he apparently brought to everything. I'm sorry about this, Mira said. I'm usually not so clumsy. It's not your fault. Jaden gets excited and forgets to warn people about hazards. He's like me that way. Too focused on the end goal to think about safety. They drove in silence for a moment. Then Adrian asked, You said you're from Lakeshore City, right? Born and raised. What part? The old downtown area. My mom owns a bookstore there. Pages and memories. Adrian's hands tightened on the wheel. Downtown. Near the college. A few blocks away, yeah. Why? I went to college here. Long time ago. Before you were born. Small world, Mira said. Another silence. Then, your mom. What did you say her name was? I didn't. But it's Lena. Lena Morel. The car swerved slightly. Adrian corrected it immediately, but Mira had felt the jerk. Are you okay, Mr. Cole? Fine, he said, but his voice had changed. Gone hard. Just thought I saw something in the road. But he hadn't seen anything in the road. He'd seen the past, suddenly snapping into focus with brutal clarity. Lena. Lakeshore City. A daughter, 19 years old. Born in September. The math was simple. Devastating. Impossible to ignore. They arrived at the urgent care clinic, and Adrian was silent as they checked Mira in. Silent as the nurse cleaned and bandaged her hand. Silent as the doctor explained burn care and wrote a prescription for pain medication. Mira could feel his eyes on her the whole time. Studying her face. Her mannerisms. The way she pushed her hair behind her ear when she was nervous. The way she bit her lip when the bandaging hurt. Things he'd seen Lena do 1,000 times, 20 years ago. Finally, back in the car, Adrian turned to her. I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Okay, Mira said slowly. When's your birthday? The exact date. September 14th. Why does everyone keep asking me that? What year? Mira told him. Adrian closed his eyes. Your mother. Lena Morel. Is she about 5'6", dark brown hair, used to love Victorian literature? Yes, Mira whispered, suddenly afraid. How do you know my mother? Adrian opened his eyes, and Mira saw something in them that made her stomach drop. Pain. Rage. Recognition. Betrayal. Because 20 years ago, Adrian said, his voice shaking, I was married to her. The world stopped. Myra's burned hand throbbed, but she barely felt it over the roaring in her ears. What? We were married for 2 years. We divorced right before I moved to Singapore. Right before you would have been conceived. He laughed, a bitter sound with no humor in it. She never told me. She was pregnant, and she never told me. No, Mira said. No, that's not. My father is someone who had to chase his dreams. Someone far away. Someone who would have loved me if things had been different. That's what she always said. That's what she told you. Adrian's hands were shaking now. That I would have loved you if things had been different. I didn't even know you existed. Tears started streaming down Myra's face. You're lying. I'm not. God, I wish I was. But look at you. You look exactly like my children. Exactly like me. The same eyes. The same mannerisms. You're my daughter, and she never told me. She kept you from me for 19 years. Take me home, Mira said. Take me home right now. We need to talk to your mother. I said take me home. But Adrian was already driving, and he wasn't heading toward Myra's apartment. He was heading downtown, toward a small bookstore he'd walked past 100 times over the years, never knowing that the woman he'd once loved was inside, keeping his daughter from him. Pages and memories looked exactly like Lena. Cozy, filled with old books and comfortable chairs, warm lighting and the smell of coffee and paper. Adrian had driven past it 1,000 times. Had maybe even glanced in the window once or twice, never knowing. He parked in front. Mira was crying silently in the passenger seat. "Please," she whispered. "Please don't do this." "She kept you from me," Adrian said. "She kept you from me for 19 years. I deserve answers." "You deserve answers." They walked in together. A bell chimed above the door. And there, behind the counter, looking up with a smile that died the instant she saw them together, was Lena. Her face went white. The book she'd been holding slipped from her fingers. "Mira," she breathed. Then her eyes went to Adrian, and something in her seemed to break. "Adrian." "Mom," Mira said, her voice broken. "Tell me he's wrong. Tell me he's not my father." But Lena couldn't speak. She just stood there, looking between her daughter and the man she'd loved, the secret she'd kept finally exploding in the worst possible way. "How could you?" Adrian asked, his voice low and dangerous. "How could you keep her from me?" "I thought I was protecting you," Lena whispered. "Protecting me? You stole 19 years from me. 19 years of my daughter's life. First steps. First words. First days of school. Everything. You took everything. You left me," Lena said, her own voice rising. "You chose your dreams over us. There was no us to choose. You never told me there was an US. You were pregnant and you never said a word. What was I supposed to do? Call you in Singapore and trap you? Make you come back and resent me, resent her, for ruining your perfect future? That wasn't your choice to make." The bell above the door chimed again. They all turned. 3 children stood in the doorway, Adrian's children, wide-eyed and confused. They must have followed in the other car, with the nanny. Eli, the oldest, looked between Mira and his father. "Dad? What's going on? Why is Mira crying?" Adrian closed his eyes. This was a nightmare. His children, his daughter he'd never known, all colliding in the worst possible way. Nia stepped forward. "Mira? Are you okay?" And Jaden, the youngest, the most perceptive, looked at Mira and then at his father and then at Lena, and something clicked in his 8-year-old brain. "She's our sister," he said. "Isn't she? That's why we look the same. Mira is our sister." The silence that followed was deafening. Then Eli whispered, "Is that true?" Adrian looked at his children. At Mira. At Lena. At the wreckage of 20 years of secrets finally exposed. "Yes," he said. "Mira is your sister. Your older sister." Nia gasped. Eli's face went through a dozen emotions in seconds. And Jaden, sweet, brilliant Jaden, walked straight to Mira and hugged her. "I'm glad," he said. "I always wanted an older sister." That broke something in Mira. She started sobbing, and Jaden held on tight, this little boy offering comfort to the sister he'd just learned existed. "I'm sorry," Lena was saying, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so sorry. I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought I was protecting everyone." "You were protecting yourself," Adrian said coldly. "Don't pretend this was noble. You were scared and alone and you made a choice that destroyed lives." "I made a choice that gave Mira a stable childhood," Lena shot back. "I made a choice that let you build your empire without the burden of a child you didn't want. I didn't want. You never gave me the chance to want anything. You decided for both of us." "Stop," Mira shouted. Everyone froze. "Just stop. Both of you. I can't. I can't do this right now." She pulled away from Jaden and ran. Out of the bookstore, into the street, disappearing into the crowd. "Mira," Lena called, starting after her. "Let her go," Adrian said. "You've done enough." That night, I sat in my empty bookstore and finally let myself fall apart. 20 years of secrets. 20 years of telling myself I'd done the right thing. And in one afternoon, it had all come crashing down. Adrian had taken his children home. They'd left in stunned silence, Nia crying, Eli shocked, Jaden still processing. Mira hadn't come home. She'd texted me that she was staying with a friend, that she needed space, that she couldn't even look at me right now. I'd lost her. After 19 years of having her, of being her whole world, I'd lost her in a single moment of truth. And Adrian. The look in his eyes. I'd known he would be angry. I'd prepared for anger. But the betrayal there, the devastation, the hatred. That was worse than anything I'd imagined. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Lena Morel. A woman's voice. Cold. Professional. Yes. This is Victoria Cole. Adrian's wife. I think you and I need to have a conversation. My stomach dropped. Mrs. Cole, I don't think that's. Tomorrow. 10 a.m. My lawyer's office. You'll receive the address by email. Don't be late. She hung up before I could respond. This wasn't over. This was just beginning. If you're still watching, I need you to subscribe right now because what happens next is going to shock you. And drop a comment telling me whose side you're on. Was Lena wrong to keep the secret? Or did she do what she thought was best? Subscribe to help this channel grow. The next few weeks were hell. Mira moved out of our apartment, staying with her college roommate. She wouldn't take my calls. She'd text occasionally, short messages that she was fine, that she needed time, that she couldn't talk yet. Adrian's lawyers contacted me. DNA test to confirm paternity. Child support calculations for the 19 years I'd raised her alone. Discussions about custody, though Mira was an adult and that was complicated. Victoria Cole filed for divorce. Apparently, having her husband's secret child show up was the final straw in an already crumbling marriage. The tabloids got hold of the story. Tech billionaire's secret daughter revealed. Love child scandal rocks TechCore dynamics. My bookstore became a target for reporters. I had to hire security. Business dropped by 60%. People who'd known me for years looked at me differently. Some with pity. Some with judgment. But the worst part was Mira. My daughter, who I'd raised and loved and protected, who wouldn't even look at me. 6 weeks after the revelation, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Mom. Myra's voice, small and broken. Baby. Oh God, Mira. Are you okay? Can you come to the park? The one by the lake. I'm here with Dad and the kids. I think we need to talk. All of us. My hands were shaking as I drove to the lakeside park. It was a cold December day, the kind where your breath fogs in the air and the lake looks gray and endless. They were sitting at a picnic table. Adrian and his 3 children. And Mira. My daughter. Our daughter. Surrounded by the siblings she'd never known existed. I walked over slowly, feeling like I was approaching a firing squad. Lena, Adrian said. His voice was neutral. Not warm, but not full of the rage it had held 6 weeks ago. Adrian. Sit down. Please. I sat across from them. Mira wouldn't meet my eyes. Adrian took a breath. We've been doing family therapy. All of us. Me, the kids, and Mira. Trying to process this situation. That's good, I whispered. The therapist suggested we needed to have a conversation. All of us together. To try to understand what happened and why. I'll explain anything you want. I don't want your explanations, Adrian said, but his voice wasn't cruel. Just tired. I've spent 6 weeks being angry. 6 weeks thinking about all the things I missed. All the time I lost. And I'm still angry, Lena. I don't know if that anger is ever going to go away completely. I understand. But I also understand something else. You were pregnant and alone and grieving your mother. You made a choice that you thought was right. It was the wrong choice. It was a choice that hurt all of us. But I don't think you made it out of malice. Tears started streaming down my face. I thought I was protecting you. Protecting her. I thought if you knew, you'd either come back and resent us, or stay away and send money and resent us from a distance. I thought either way, you'd hate me for trapping you. You should have told me, Adrian said. You should have given me the choice. I know. I know that now. I'm so sorry. Mira finally looked up at me. Her eyes were red from crying, but there was something else there too. Not forgiveness, not yet. But maybe the beginning of understanding. The therapist said that you were young and scared and made a bad decision that came from a place of fear, not cruelty, Mira said quietly. She said that doesn't make it right, but it makes it human. I love you, I said. Everything I did, right or wrong, came from loving you so much I couldn't breathe sometimes. I know, Mom. I'm starting to understand that. Eli, the 10-year-old who loved literature, spoke up. In the books I read, people make mistakes. Big mistakes. And they have to live with the consequences. But sometimes, they also get forgiveness. Eventually. Eventually isn't now, Mia added. The 12-year-old artist, so much like her sister. But maybe it's not never, either. Jaden, the youngest, looked at Adrian. Dad, are you going to forgive her? Adrian was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, I don't know, buddy. Forgiveness is complicated. But I'm trying to understand. And understanding is a start. He looked at me then, really looked at me for the first time since that awful day in the bookstore. You cost me 19 years with my daughter. That's not something I can just get over. But Mira deserves better than having her parents at war. And the kids, he glanced at his 3 children, they've bonded with their sister. They love her already. So we need to find a way to coexist. For them. I'll do anything, I said. Anything to make this right. You can't make it right. You can never make it right. But you can try to do better going forward. Over the next few months, we built something new from the wreckage. It wasn't easy. It wasn't clean. But it was real. Adrian and Victoria's divorce was finalized. The media circus eventually died down. The custody lawyers were dismissed because Mira was an adult and could make her own choices. She chose to have a relationship with all of us. She moved into her own apartment, equidistant from my bookstore and Adrian's estate. She spent time with her siblings, teaching them and bonding with them and building the relationship they'd all been robbed of. And slowly, painfully, she started to forgive me. I understand why you did it, she told me one evening, 6 months after the revelation. We were having dinner at a small restaurant, just the 2 of us. I don't agree with it. I wish you'd told me sooner. I wish I'd known my father, known my siblings. But I understand that you thought you were protecting me. I was wrong, I said. I was so wrong, Mira. And I'll regret it for the rest of my life. I know. But you also raised me alone. You worked yourself to exhaustion to give me a good life. You loved me fiercely and completely. That counts for something too. My relationship with Adrian would never be what it was. That young, passionate love was gone, killed by time and mistakes and betrayal. But we learned to be civil. To coexist. To co-parent, even though our daughter was an adult. Sometimes, late at night, I'd wonder what would have happened if I'd told him. If I'd called him in Singapore and said, I'm pregnant. Would he have come back? Would we have made it work? Would our daughter have grown up with both her parents, with her siblings, with a different life entirely? But those were pointless questions. I'd made my choice. And choices have consequences. 1 year after the revelation, Mira graduated from college. Adrian and I sat in the audience together, with his 3 children between us. When Mira walked across that stage, we all stood and cheered. A blended, broken, complicated family. But a family nonetheless. After the ceremony, Mira found us in the crowd. She hugged her siblings first, then Adrian, then me. "I love you, Mom," she whispered in my ear. "Even with everything. I love you." And that was enough. It had to be enough. Now, 2 years later, I watch Mira with her siblings and I see the life she could have had. The life I stole from her with my silence. But I also see the woman she became, strong and resilient and kind, despite my mistakes. Adrian and I will never be friends. The wound is too deep. But we've learned to work together for our daughter, for his children, for the family we accidentally created. Secrets, I've learned, are never really mercies. They're just lies we tell ourselves to make the hard choices bearable. And eventually, they always come to light. The only question is how much damage they do when they explode. I kept my secret for 20 years, thinking I was protecting the people I loved. Instead, I almost destroyed them. Almost destroyed the most important relationship in my life. Almost lost my daughter forever. Forgiveness is a process, not a destination. Some days are better than others. Some days, Mira looks at me with love and understanding. Other days, I can see the shadow of betrayal still there, the question of what if. But we're trying. All of us. Adrian with his controlled civility. Mira with her hard-won forgiveness. The children with their innocent acceptance. And me with my endless regret and my desperate hope that maybe, somehow, we can build something good from the rubble of my mistakes. That's the lesson, I guess. The moral of this story. Secrets kept in the name of protection are still lies. Love doesn't flourish in silence and shadows. Truth, no matter how painful, is better than decades of deception. I wish I'd learned that 20 years ago. I wish I'd been brave enough to tell Adrian about Mira, to give him the choice, to trust that love could survive honesty. But I wasn't. And now I live with the consequences. We all do. The question I asked myself for 20 years was, am I doing the right thing? The question I ask myself now is, can I ever truly make this right? I don't know the answer. Maybe there isn't one. Maybe some mistakes are too big to fully fix. Maybe the best you can do is acknowledge them, apologize for them, and try to do better going forward. So that's what I'm doing. Every day. Trying to be better. Trying to earn back the trust one shattered. Trying to build a relationship with my daughter that's based on honesty instead of secrets. It's not the ending I imagined when I first held Mira in my arms 19 years ago. But it's the ending I have. And I'm grateful for it, even with all its complications and pain. Because I still have my daughter. She's still in my life. That's more than I deserve, after everything. And I will never, ever take it for granted again. What did you think of this story? Drop a comment and let me know if you think Lena made the right choice or if she should have told Adrian from the beginning. And please, subscribe to Mr. Steven's Stories to help this channel grow. Your support means everything, and there are so many more powerful stories coming. Hit that subscribe button and let's grow this community together.